The first contact incident. Senior observer Naira's primary sensory appendages trembled as she studied the data streaming across her monitoring station. After 3 centuries of observing primitive worlds, she had never seen anything like this. The energy signatures emanating from the third planet of this unremarkable yellow star defied all established development patterns. "Director Val," she called out, her voice carrying the distinct harmonic overtones of extreme concern. "You need to see this immediately." The director's crystalline form shifted through various shades of deep blue as they glided across the observation deck. The massive viewing screen displayed a planet wrapped in swirling white clouds and vast blue oceans. Earth, as its inhabitants called it. "Explain," Val commanded, their crystalline structure pulsing with anticipation. "The humans have achieved nuclear fusion," Naira reported, her appendages dancing across the holographic controls. "But that's not what concerns me. Look at their development timeline." The display shifted to show a graph of technological advancement. Most species followed a predictable curve, taking thousands of years to progress from basic tools to advanced technology. The human line shot almost straight up. "Impossible," Val whispered, their crystal structure vibrating with disbelief. "Run a diagnostic on the monitoring systems." "Already done, Director." 3 times. "The data is accurate." Naira projected another series of images. They went from primitive combustion engines to spaceflight in less than a century, from basic computing to quantum systems in mere decades, and they're still accelerating. The observation deck fell silent as the implications sank in. According to all known models of civilizational development, this shouldn't be possible. Yet here was the evidence, verified and re-verified. "There's more," Naira continued, her voice dropping to a near whisper. "They're achieving this while their planet is still divided into competing nations. Most species unite before reaching this level of technology, but humans—" She paused, searching for the right words. "They seem to thrive on competition. It drives them to innovate faster." Val's crystalline form darkened with concern. "Show me their response to setbacks." The display filled with historical data, failed experiments, devastating wars, natural disasters. And after each one, instead of regressing or stagnating as most species would, humans came back stronger. They learned, adapted, and improved with a speed that bordered on the impossible. "Director," Naira said, her appendages now completely still, a sign of utmost seriousness among her kind. "They've already detected traces of our long-range monitoring probes. At their current rate of advancement, they'll develop the capability to detect our cloaked observation stations within 5 of their years." Val's crystalline structure pulsed rapidly, processing this information. In all their centuries of observing developing worlds, they had never encountered a species quite like this. Humans didn't just survive in conditions that would kill most sentient beings. They flourished. They didn't just overcome obstacles. They seemed to grow stronger because of them. "Send an emergency communication to the Galactic Council," Val ordered, their voice resonating with multiple harmonics of concern. "Priority Level 1. They need to know what we've discovered here." As Naira prepared the communication, Val turned back to the main display, watching the blue planet spin slowly against the backdrop of space. According to all their scientific models, the human race shouldn't even exist. Their planet was too volatile, their environment too hostile, their society too fragmented. Yet not only did they exist, but they were also advancing at a pace that defied all known laws of societal development. "What are you?" Val wondered aloud, their crystalline form reflecting the blue light of Earth. "And what will you become once you know you're not alone in the universe?" The answer to that question would soon send shockwaves through the entire galactic community. For now, though, humanity continued its relentless march forward, blissfully unaware that they were being watched, and that they were beginning to frighten beings far more advanced than themselves. In the depths of space, automated probes continued to record and transmit data about this remarkable species. Each new transmission only confirmed what Naira and Val were beginning to suspect. They weren't just observing another emerging civilization. They were witnessing the birth of something unprecedented in the galaxy's history, a species that didn't just adapt to survive, they adapted to thrive. And they did it faster than anyone had thought possible. The question was no longer whether to make contact, but how to approach a species that broke all the rules of development. The galaxy was about to change, and humanity would be the cause. The Observation Project. The emergency session of the Galactic Council stretched into its third rotation. The massive chamber, designed to accommodate beings of all forms and environmental needs, hummed with tense energy as representatives from 1,000 worlds debated the situation on Earth. The humans have already detected our probe signatures, Supreme Counselor Zix announced, their bioluminescent form pulsing with each word. Our window of deniability is closing rapidly. The holographic display at the center of the chamber showed Earth's rapidly advancing detection systems. What had started as primitive radio telescopes had evolved into a complex network of quantum sensors in less than a human lifetime. Eldercraft, whose species had taken 10,000 years to achieve spaceflight, raised their crystalline appendage. Perhaps we're overreacting. They're still confined to their own solar system. Surely we have time. With respect, Elder, Naira interrupted, her sensor appendages still trembling from her first-hand observations. You don't understand. Look at this. She accessed the chamber's main display, showing a time-lapse of human technological development. When they encounter a limitation, they don't accept it. They don't even slow down. They just find another way. The chamber erupted in overlapping harmonics as dozens of representatives spoke at once. Supreme Counselor Zix pulsed brightly, restoring order. Show them the Mars incident, Zix commanded. Naira brought up footage from 3 Earth months ago. A human Mars expedition had encountered a fatal equipment failure. According to all predictive models, the humans should have abandoned the mission. Instead, they improvised repairs using materials that shouldn't have worked, in ways that shouldn't have been possible. They survived. Elder Craft's crystalline form flickered in disbelief. They didn't just survive, Naira explained. They improved the design and implemented the changes across their entire space program within weeks. They treat near-death experiences as learning opportunities. The chamber fell silent. Most species took generations to recover from such traumas. Humans seem to thrive on them. There's worse news. Director Val added, their crystal structure darkening. We've detected signs that they're on the verge of discovering quantum communication. At their current rate of advancement, they'll achieve faster than light travel within 2 of their decades. This announcement sent new waves of anxiety through the chamber. FTL travel had taken most Council species centuries to develop after achieving spaceflight. The humans were about to do it in less than 1 century. We must establish direct observation, Supreme Counselor Zix declared. No more long-range monitoring. We need to understand how they're achieving this rate of advancement. Direct observation carries significant risks, Naira cautioned. Their detection capabilities are advancing exponentially. Any observation post would need to be perfectly hidden. Then we will hide it perfectly, Zix declared. We cannot allow a species with their capabilities to emerge into the galactic community without understanding them better. 3 Earth months later, the observation post was complete. Hidden beneath the surface of Mars, it contained the most advanced cloaking technology in the galaxy. A team of the Council's best sinologists, led by Naira, began their close-range study of humanity. What they discovered both fascinated and terrified them. Humans didn't just use technology. They constantly improved it. They didn't just solve problems. They actively sought them out, as if the very act of confronting challenges gave them pleasure. When faced with a choice between a safe, proven method and a risky but potentially better one, they consistently chose the latter. They have a saying, Naira reported back to the Council. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. They view risk not as a danger to be avoided, but as a necessary part of progress. The Council's concern grew as they watched humans tackle problems that should have been far beyond their technological level. They didn't wait to fully understand a technology before trying to improve it. They didn't wait for perfect solutions. They implemented partial solutions and improved them through iteration. How do they deal with failures? Elder Krath asked during one briefing. Naira's appendages waved in what her species' equivalent of nervous laughter. They have another saying for that. Fail fast, fail forward. They treat failures as data points, not setbacks. But it was the humans' response to existential threats that truly alarmed the Council. When faced with problems that threatened their survival, humans didn't become more cautious. They became more innovative, more daring, more determined. The observation team watched in amazement as humans tackled climate change, resource depletion, and ecological collapse, not with fear or resignation, but with an almost aggressive optimism. They didn't just try to solve their problems. They tried to solve them in ways that would prevent similar problems from occurring again. They're going to detect us, Naira reported one day, her appendages trembling more violently than ever. Not because our cloaking technology has failed, but because they're developing detection systems we never thought to shield against. They're not just looking for what they know might be there. They're looking for what they think might be possible. The Council faced a decision they had never encountered before: how to handle first contact with a species that was advancing too rapidly to be safely ignored, yet too unpredictable to be safely approached. Little did they know, events were already in motion that would force their hand. For in their quest to understand humanity, they had overlooked one crucial fact. Humans weren't just looking for signs of alien life. They were expecting to find it. And they were far closer to succeeding than anyone had realized. The assessment. Dr. Sarah Chen stood before her laboratory team at the Quantum Detection Array facility in Antarctica, her excitement barely contained. The holographic display behind her showed a series of energy signatures that shouldn't exist according to current human understanding of physics. "Look at these patterns," she said, highlighting a particular sequence. "They're too regular to be natural phenomena, too complex to be random noise. And they're coming from Mars." Her colleague, Dr. James Rodriguez, leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "Could it be interference from our own Mars colonies?" "That's what I thought at first," Sarah replied, pulling up another dataset. "But these signatures utilize quantum states we haven't even theorized yet. Whatever's generating them, it isn't human technology." Unknown to the humans, their conversation was being monitored by the very beings they were detecting. In the Martian observation post, Naira's appendages writhed in distress as she reported to the Council. "They've detected our quantum communication systems," she announced. "Not only that, they're already developing theories about how they work. Their capacity for reverse engineering is unprecedented." Supreme Counselor Zix's bioluminescence flickered rapidly. "How? Our systems are based on principles their science shouldn't even be able to detect yet." "That's just it," Director Vall interjected, their crystalline form pulsing with urgency. "They created detection systems for phenomena they only theorize might exist. They don't wait to prove something is possible before trying to find it." The Council chamber erupted in concerned harmonics. This behavior pattern defied all known models of technological development. Species were supposed to progress in a logical sequence: theory, proof, application. Humans seemed to skip steps, pursuing multiple possibilities simultaneously. Back on Earth, Sarah's team had made another breakthrough. They'd detected patterns in the quantum signatures that suggested they were receiving only part of a larger communication network. "It's like hearing one end of a phone conversation," Sarah had explained to the facility's director. "We can't decode it yet, but we can tell it's a conversation. Someone's out there, and they're talking to someone else." In the Martian observation post, the alien observers watched with growing alarm as humans came closer to cracking their quantum encryption. What had taken other species centuries of dedicated research, humans were accomplishing through sheer determination and creative thinking. "They have a fundamental advantage we hadn't considered," Naira reported to the Council. They don't know what's impossible. When they encounter something they don't understand, they don't assume it can't be done. They assume they just haven't figured out how to do it yet. The Council's assessment team had identified this as a unique human trait. Where other species develop technology through careful, methodical progression, humans seem to leap forward in bursts of inspiration and necessity. They didn't wait to fully understand a technology before trying to improve it. Show them the education data, Director Vall requested. Naira brought up footage from human schools and universities. Look at how they teach their young. They don't just pass on knowledge. They encourage questioning everything. Their children aren't punished for challenging established theories. They're rewarded for it. The Council watched in fascination as human students proposed wild theories, conducted dangerous experiments, and constantly pushed the boundaries of what their teachers told them was possible. And this is normal for them? Elder Krath asked, their crystalline form flickering with disbelief. More than normal, Naira replied. It's fundamental to their nature. They have a saying, rules are meant to be broken. They don't see limitations as absolute. They see them as challenges to overcome. But it was their response to failure that truly set humans apart. The observation team had documented countless cases where humans had failed at something, learned from the failure, and immediately tried again with a new approach. They didn't just persist, they adapted. We've identified another concerning trait, Naira continued. They deliberately seek out problems to solve. They create challenges for themselves, even in their recreation activities. Look at this. The display showed humans engaging in various sports and competitions, activities that served no practical purpose except to push their physical and mental limits. They compete for fun, Director Vall explained to the stunned council. They intentionally place themselves in difficult situations just to prove they can overcome them. As the council debated how to handle this unprecedented situation, Sarah's team made another breakthrough. They had managed to triangulate the source of the quantum signatures to a specific location on Mars. Whatever's generating these signals, Sarah announced to her team, it's not just on Mars, it's under the surface, and it's actively trying to hide from us. In the observation post, alarms began to sound. The humans weren't just detecting their presence, they were actively working to expose it. The Council's worst fears were being realized. Humanity wasn't going to wait to be contacted. They were going to force the issue. We need to make a decision, Supreme Counselor Zix declared. Either we reveal ourselves on our terms, or they will discover us on theirs. The choice was clear, but the consequences were impossible to predict. For the first time in galactic history, the Council would have to make first contact with a species that might already be more advanced in some ways than they were. The galaxy was about to change forever, and no one, not even the Council, could predict how humanity would react to the knowledge that they weren't alone in the universe. But one thing was certain, whatever happened next would happen at humanity's characteristic breakneck pace. The warning. The Drachnid Empire's arrival in the Sol system wasn't subtle. Their warships, massive crystalline structures that distorted space around them, emerged from hyperspace in a display of power meant to intimidate. They had conquered 17 systems before setting their sights on Earth, and none had offered meaningful resistance. Supreme Counselor Zix watched in horror as the Drachnid fleet positioned itself between Earth and Mars, directly above the Council's observation post. The Council had been preparing for first contact with humanity, but the Drachnids had just forced their hand. The Drachnids don't know, Naira realized, her appendages trembling with a mixture of fear and anticipation. They think Earth is just another primitive world. In low Earth orbit, the International Space Defense Station's sensors lit up with alerts. Dr. Sarah Chen, recently transferred from Antarctica, stared at the readings in disbelief. Multiple objects just appeared, she reported to Mission Control. Massive energy signatures, unlike anything we've ever seen. They're not natural objects. The Drachnid Emperor's message reached every communication device on Earth simultaneously, translated into all major human languages. Primitive beings of Earth, your world now belongs to the Drachnid Empire. Submit, and you may survive as our servants. Resist, and be annihilated. You have one of your Earth days to decide. The Council observation team watched in fascination as humans around the world received the message. They expected panic, chaos, perhaps immediate surrender. Instead, they'd witnessed something unprecedented. Within hours, former enemy nations were coordinating responses. Military commanders shared classified technologies. Scientists worldwide began collaborating on weapons development. Humanity didn't fragment under pressure. They unified. Impossible, Director Vol whispered, their crystalline form pulsing with disbelief. No species has ever mounted effective resistance against the Drachnids. The technology gap is too great. But humans weren't following the expected script. In labs across Earth, scientists like Sarah weren't just analyzing the Drachnid ships. They were already theorizing ways to defeat them. Look at their ship configuration, Sarah explained to a global conference of scientists. Those energy distortions around their hulls, they're using space-time manipulation for both propulsion and defense. But any system that complex must have resonant frequencies. Find those frequencies. And their shields become their weakness, completed Dr. Rodriguez, now working from a lab in Buenos Aires. We can use their own space-time distortions against them. The Council observers watched in amazement as humans worldwide began repurposing their quantum detection arrays into weapons. They weren't just adapting existing technology. They were creating entirely new fields of science on the fly. The Drachnid Emperor, watching from his flagship, grew increasingly uneasy. His sensors showed unprecedented levels of energy activity from Earth. The humans were building something, but what? Their primitive technology can't possibly harm us, his science advisor assured him. They'd barely have space flight capability. But the advisor was wrong. Humans didn't think in terms of what they could do with current technology. They thought in terms of what they needed to do, then invented the technology to do it. 23 hours after the Drachnid ultimatum, humanity responded. Not with words, but with action. Quantum resonance weapons, developed and built in less than a day, fired from stations worldwide. The beams themselves didn't damage the Drachnid ships. Instead, they created a cascade effect in the ship's own space-time distortion fields. The Drachnid Emperor watched in horror as his supposedly impenetrable shields began to collapse, turned into weapons against his own fleet by technology that shouldn't have been possible to develop so quickly. How? He demanded as his flagship systems began to fail. They were primitive. They didn't even have faster-than-light travel. In the Council observation post, Naira recorded everything. They didn't try to match Drachnid technology, she reported to the Council. They found its fundamental principles and turned them against themselves. They didn't fight the battle they were prepared for. They changed the rules entirely. The Drachnid fleet retreated in disarray, their space-time distortion technology now a liability rather than an advantage. They had expected an easy conquest of a primitive world. Instead, they had awakened something far more dangerous: human ingenuity under pressure. As the Council watched Earth's celebrations, they realized they had witnessed something unprecedented in galactic history. Humans hadn't just survived an encounter with a vastly superior technological force. They had won, and in doing so, had advanced their own technology by decades. We need to contact them now, Supreme Counselor Zix declared, before they trace the Drachnid's path back through the galaxy and find us first. They've proven they can detect our technology, and after this victory, they'll be looking harder than ever. The Council agreed. The time for hiding was over. Humanity had just announced its presence on the galactic stage in the most dramatic way possible, by defeating an enemy they had no business being able to defeat. As Sarah and her team began analyzing the data from the battle, they discovered something else. The quantum signatures from Mars had changed. Whatever was hiding there had been watching, and now it was getting ready to move. The galaxy was about to meet humanity officially, and nothing would ever be the same. The revelation. 3 days after the Drachnid retreat, Dr. Sarah Chen found herself in a secured conference room at the United Nations, presenting her findings to a global panel of leaders. The holographic display behind her showed the quantum signatures from Mars, now stronger than ever. The signals changed during the Drachnid attack, she explained. Whatever's generating them was watching us. And now, she paused, bringing up new data. Now they're preparing to reveal themselves. In the Martian observation post, final preparations were underway. The Council had decided. It was time for official first contact. Humanity had proven themselves not just ready, but potentially too dangerous to leave in isolation. They defeated the Drachnids in a day. Supreme Counselor Zix noted, their bioluminescence pulsing with a mixture of awe and concern. Imagine what they'll do in a year, a decade. We need to integrate them into the galactic community before they integrate themselves. The Council's message reached Earth on all frequencies, in all languages, but this time, it wasn't a threat. It was an invitation. People of Earth, the message began. We are the Galactic Council, and we have been watching. You have proven yourselves to be unique among the species we know. We wish to establish peaceful contact. The world's response was characteristically human. Instead of fear or blind acceptance, there was cautious curiosity mixed with practical preparation. Military forces remained on alert, but scientists and diplomats took the lead. They'd been on Mars, Sarah told the UN panel, pointing to the underground structure her team had detected. Watching us, learning about us. And I think they're scared of us. She was right. As the Council delegation emerged from their Martian base, preparing to meet the human representatives, they were indeed afraid. Not of human weapons or technology, but of humanity's potential. The first face-to-face meeting took place on neutral ground, the International Space Station, hastily modified to accommodate various alien physiologies. Sarah found herself among the human delegation, facing beings that defied her understanding of life itself. Supreme Counselor Zix, their bioluminescent form contained within a specially designed environmental suit, spoke first. We must admit, you are not like any species we have encountered before. How so? Asked the UN Secretary General, representing Earth's united response to this historic moment. You adapt too quickly, learn too fast, solve problems you shouldn't even be able to comprehend yet. Zix's bioluminescence flickered rapidly. You defeated the Drachnids using principles of physics you discovered just by observing their ships. Do you understand how impossible that should have been? Sarah stepped forward. Nothing's impossible. We just haven't figured out how to do it yet. The alien delegation shifted uncomfortably. That was exactly the attitude that both fascinated and terrified them about humans. Your species evolved on a death world. Director Vall explained, their crystalline form refracting the station's lights. Your gravity is crushing, your atmosphere corrosive, your temperature range extreme. By all our models, you shouldn't exist. Yet not only do you exist, you thrive. And you don't just survive challenges, Naira added, her appendages moving in complex patterns. You actively seek them out. You deliberately make things harder for yourselves just to prove you can overcome them. The human delegation exchanged glances. What seemed normal to them was apparently terrifying to the rest of the galaxy. We've come to offer you membership in the Galactic Council, Zix announced. But we have a concern. Your rate of advancement. It's unprecedented. Dangerous, even. We typically require species to develop more slowly, more carefully. Sarah couldn't help but laugh. You want us to slow down, to be more careful. That's not who we are. We don't advance because we have to. We advance because we want to. Because every challenge is an opportunity, every problem a chance to learn something new. The aliens' universal translators struggled with the concept, a species that viewed obstacles as opportunities, that treated limitations as challenges to overcome rather than boundaries to respect. Perhaps, the Secretary General suggested, what you see as dangerous advancement, we see as natural progress. We don't know what's impossible, so we don't let it stop us. The council members conferred among themselves, their various forms shifting in what humans would later learn were signs of intense debate. Finally, Zix spoke again. We offer you full membership in the Galactic Council, not because you have achieved the traditional requirements, but because we believe we need you. Your perspective, your drive, your impossible way of thinking. The galaxy is changing, and perhaps it needs to change. As the formal proceedings began, Sarah found herself in conversation with Naira, whose scientific curiosity matched her own. Your people fought the Drachnids without even knowing about the wider galaxy, Naira observed. Weren't you afraid? Sarah smiled. Of course we were afraid. But humans have another saying. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's what you do despite being afraid. The galaxy was indeed changing. Humanity's entry into the galactic community would spark a renaissance of innovation and exploration. Other species, inspired by human example, began to question their own limitations. The careful, plodding pace of galactic development was about to be replaced by something more dynamic, more challenging, and infinitely more interesting. As the first human ambassadors prepared to visit other worlds, the Council archived their final observation report on humanity. The conclusion was simple yet profound. They don't view the impossible as a barrier, but as a starting point, and that makes them the most terrifying and wonderful species we have ever encountered. The age of careful, measured progress was over. The human age of bold exploration and impossible achievements had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.